Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Computer Wednesday, we're going to talk about Dolby Vision. So let's dive right into it. Now, before we dive deep into it, we have to understand why there is a need for this. Well, the need comes from we want to go to next generation. It's kind of necessary for basically every industry attached to entertainment that technology keeps moving forward. Now, we reached a point where display resolution has been maxed out. What does that mean? That simply means it's not that we cannot make more resolution. It's just like, what's the point of it? For example, point of diminishing return is a very easy way to visualize that. Like you spend a little bit of money, you get a little bit of performance. You spend a bit more, get a lot of performance. Then it goes to a certain point, then it becomes blah. It's like, yeah, you can spend a bit more, but it's not gonna give you much. So point of diminishing return is something similar to that. For example, we started TV broadcasting industry with 360p almost. Now that is 0.1 megapixel, very low resolution. Now then we had the biggest jump possible, that is 1080p full HD. Now this puppy is 2.1 megapixel. Now I can be damn sure I do not have to tell any Tom, Dick and Harry that watches SD and HD. It's so crystal clear. It's like any Tom, Dick and Harry can tell the difference between SD and HD. That was the biggest jump ever. And at this point in time, almost even developing countries and developed countries, all of them have primary broadcasting done in HD. So we got to a point where we had a huge jump. It created a new industry, Blu-ray industry, and a lot of things happened. Industry moved forward. Then HD started to fade out a bit, and then people started to introduce 4K, aka 2160p. Now this puppy is 8.2 megapixel. And I'm talking about like per still frame. So you had SD to HD, and then you had 4K. However, at this point in time, something interesting happened. We are at a point where, yes, you are getting better image quality, but does that translate to viewers seeing it and like, yeah, that's 4K, yeah, that's HD, that's 4K, that's HD? No. Like the point of diminishing is started now. Yes, people with very sharp eyes, people with who deal with this sort of stuff, like if any IT professional or any graphics engineer, they, yeah, dude, this is actually, this is 4K, they can do that. But average people cannot tell that apart that easily. On top of that, the jump from SD to HD was huge. HD to 4K, it's not huge. So consequence of that is like many people did not jump into it. And even though at this point in time, me making this video, there are companies that are selling you 8K display, that is 4320p, aka 33 megapixel, most people are not interested into it. It's like, it's like the simple reason is simply, yeah, on the images you will like SD, HD, 4K, 8K. All that happens is your file sizes goes up, does not translate you to actually seeing it, simply because there is an actual limitation in our eyes. Our eyes are not like this absolute perfect, like Hubble telescope kind of accurate. There is a limit to that. It's like, yes, you can keep increasing the resolution, but it does not have a point, because even if you take a theater display, our eyes can only focus on a small spot. It's not like we can zoom out and capture the whole image. We can only see in a specific spot. So Full HD was the biggest jump. HD to 4K was like and that's why still at this point in time we do not have too many services that do 4K over satellite TV, 4K over like normal broadcasting system. It's not still mass adopted yet, and people want to do 8K. And then another display happened, was revolution happened. It was like FPS. Now FPS is in like frame per second. People wanted to boost that puppy. Like TV back in the old days was like 30 FPS, done, go home, sweet dreams. You do not get more than that. But over time with LCD technology, people started to go up to 60 FPS. Big deal. Now at this point, as in like this TV that I have bought, this goes to 120 FPS. Now is that the limitation? No, you can buy basically computer monitors that are like around 30 inches or less. You can easily expect to go upwards of 300 FPS. Now here's the funny thing, same thing happens here also. It's like there is a huge jump from 30 to 60 and huge jump from 60 to 120. Anything higher than that, yes, there is a quality difference. Yes, people who are playing super fast, basically there is only one game that can actually utilize that kind of high frame rates. Yes, they can tell the difference between 120 and higher than that. Most people can't, and 120 is way faster than most sightseeing game can utilize. So we reached a point where these two things are maxed out. Yeah, you can make a display that goes faster than that. Yes, you can make a display that is high resolution. That does that translate to people actually utilizing it? No. And consequence of that, your file size will go up. That's a different thing. Does not mean whether your visual quality will go up or not. That does not matter, but your file size will go up. So there is a consequence to that. So that's why 4K is here to stay. Like, yes, we will have 8K over time, but it won't be SD to HD kind of jump. That was the biggest jump. We achieved it. That's the future. We are in the future at this point in time. So HDR was introduced. Now HDR idea was very simple, like 4K came a bit early, and you could still found a lot of basically 4K display in the market that are cheap, that does not have HDR. Now idea with HDR is that instead of just increasing the resolution, what if we improve the quality of the image? So that was the whole point. So the first thing they started to develop was bigger color space. Now there are two major color space, that is BT709 and BT2100. Now that is for cinema, as in like actual digital theater projectors, very high end, as in like each file is like requires a freaking physical hard drive that has to be plugged into the system. So you get that point. That's like GG. And then you had BT709. Now for TV they created a bit smaller, that is 2020 color space. Now this color space is much bigger than BT709. Now what they are trying to achieve is basically simple. They want to remove the bottleneck. Right now our cameras, like even a basic digital camera, has a lot of dynamic range. The sole reason you don't get that dynamic range is that there is a post-processing happening on the sensor. Like once the file goes to your from sensor to actual processing unit, it's compressed the hell out of it. So basically your sensor generally have what we call analog to digital converter, basically converts the actual voltage received by the sensor into a data point. That data point is done at 16-bit. That's idiotically high value. Like 10-bit video, everybody is like, whoa. Our sensor is like, yeah, I've been doing 16-bit since I was made. So we have the, like, basically sensor has the capability of actually absorbing that kind of data. We just don't have the footage, basically processing pipeline, post-production line. So normal system is like you capture the system and then you post-produce to a point where you reduce it to BT709, basically normal broadcast grades. And then you could have a, like, two fragmented data line where you are like, okay, camera's raw file goes to the cinema studio. Cinema studio is like, be it IMAX, be it other system, they will like grade it, properly fine-tune it, whatever they have to do, or like the producer itself could work with their colorist could itself work with that, and then they'll create one file that is like master GG final file that will go into archive, that will be shown in your theaters, the highest quality possible. And then there will be like a compress the hell out of it post-production variant that is on BT709 that can be shown on TV, satellite, internet, things of that nature. So the whole point is, even though our eyes can see more than a camera can, our camera is very close to like almost maxing out our eyes, and modern sensors are really idiotically good, like as in digital sensors, and they are reaching a point where they can even exceed negative. So flat out, our sensor is not the limitation, camera is not the limitation. So somebody came up with the idea, what if we make the pipe itself fatter, rather than just compressing the hell out of it and sending a basically scaled down variant of colors, dynamic range and all that jazz. We send the biggest pipeline. So this is the whole idea of HDR. Basically you do not compress the hell out of it, you try to preserve as much as possible. Now of course still camera is still much higher than that, but they try to not lose as much as possible. And the benefit of that, at this point in time, if you have a HDR content that is well mastered on a display that is well mastered, it will look like that you are watching through a window. Like it's that good. We have maxed the resolution out. Heck, even like I remember like around 10-15 years ago when you used to watch YouTube, you will see people are talking about HD videos. It's like, dude, HD videos looks like there is a window that I can see through. It was that big of a deal. And 4K, that was like, whoa. 8K, it's like, it's like, yeah, your file sizes went up. Yeah, your each movie file is like 700 petabytes. What's the point of it? So that's why people focus on HDR rather than making more resolution, more FPS. They are focusing on making more richer image. So first the color space was improved and pipeline was enhanced to support it. Then we come to Dolby Vision. Now HDR, when they started, it needed a standard. You cannot run an industry without standard. So standard was HDR 10. Now it works, but it's a basic standard. Now biggest problem with HDR 10 was found is that it does work. Like it will tell basically movie file. It's like, this is the movie file, calibrate your display according to this metadata. Awesome. Here's the movies, basically unless you are working in news media, that's not a good system, because news media, every time they are inside basically their production room, everything is fixed. Like the lights have the same color, everything is well balanced, fine tuned, and they do not deviate from it. So that's awesome. But when you're talking about movie, it's not like that. Movie things change. Like you have dynamic scene, you can have dark scene, you have gritty scene, you have dirty scenes, you have scenes that are like literally supposed to make your skin crawl, like it's like, gross kind of feeling. So they require different kind of color grading, different kind of luminance vector. So forcing all that data to one metadata point is limiting. Yes, it's better to have that metadata rather than just relying on basic stuff, but it's limiting it. So Dolby Vision started to create a new standard known as Dolby Vision. Now benefit of Dolby Vision is that Dolby is a big ass name, as in huge, as in, have you ever heard of something known as DTX? If you haven't, that's the reason for Dolby. Dolby is huge, as in they are so big of a name that they have created a basically object-oriented sound system known as Dolby Atmos. I can guarantee you, if you are using any modern mobile phone, you can scroll down on the notification, there might be a logo for Dolby Atmos. That's how popular it is in Netflix, on every Tom, Dick and Harry things. So Dolby Atmos works. Dolby other systems also work. So they have enough presence in the cinema industry that if they claim we came up with a new standard, people will follow it. That's why that name matters. Adoption matters in this sort of system. There is no point I built this amazing system, nobody uses it. That's not, it's gonna good enough. So that's why that name matters. So HDR10 had that limitation. Yes, you can, like, let's say for Dexter Blu-ray, you will have like one metadata, and for Big Bang Theory, you can have different metadata. But here's in those most of them scenarios, you can have scenes that are changing, scenes that are requiring different kind of dynamics to it. That will not be helped. So two standards were created. One is Dolby Vision and another is HDR10 plus. Now the idea with this puppy is dynamic metadata, aka every frame can have its own metadata. So for example, the most amazing way to visualize that, think of it this way. Let's say you put a white cardboard, as white as cardboard as you can, and then you have a fire lit right there, and you capture basically light coming onto that whiteboard. You capture that to the best of your ability. You will notice that it's fluctuating. It's not like, okay, there is a luminance here, it's fluctuating. How can you translate that into a basically your video file? You create metadata. That metadata will help the display. It's like, no, this at this frame, the brightness of overall image should go down. In this, it should come up. And when you are talking about, let's say a person is going from a dark room to a bright light, the brightness should go bonkers and then come down, because your eyes are adjusting. So to give that richer feeling that you are true to life, you are actually there, you need per frame metadata. Now per frame metadata could be ludicrously expensive to do, simply because per frame metadata is too expensive. So what generally companies will do, basically Netflix or whatever company is doing the mastering, they will have every scene mastered properly. It's like, okay, this scene in this frame, basically this placing device, we are inside this house, inside this, okay, create a metadata for that. When we go out, have a different metadata. So that way each scene can have that. And if they are talking about some scene that is too dynamic, like even though one camera scene is there and they have like a lot of CG elements and all that jazz, they can, in that place, they can, hey, pay more attention to this, like fine tune each frame. So that's the whole point of Dolby Vision, is HDR with advanced metadata, which allows you to fine tune per frame basis. That's the whole point. And this gives better control over color, because here's the funny thing about colors. There are no such thing as colors on display. Like, this does not have color. What this has is chromacity. It's like, think of this, a color always requires a luminance value. What if your luminance value changes? For example, I calibrated this display and I went to my old TV, which was here before this, and that only has 400 nits versus this 700 nits. Okay, that would be fundamentally different, simply because there is not enough luminance. So even though the both of the basically display can get the same signal, show red, it can't show red, simply because it does not have the brightness to represent that. That's why you need a way to calibrate that data point. And the calibration happens on Dolby Vision. Dolby Vision is like, okay, this is my metadata. TV, listen to me and adjust yourself. Like, again, if your TV is like 1500 nits, it will adjust to that. If your TV is like, let's say 700 like this, it will adjust to that. If your TV is 4000, it will adjust to that. It won't just go bonkers, brightness or bonkers. It will adjust to that. And the benefit of that is, like, if you are talking about dark scene, you will fine tune everything in such a way that, hey, dark scene, please focus all the attention on the darkness. Now, in case of my TV, I have OLED, so I have perfect black. That's not any issue, but like if you're talking about any LCD technology, you will have to deal with that. So metadata will help in that. And it adjusts multiple things. I'm talking about the brightness because that's the easiest thing to adjust, but there are other things like hue, saturation, contrast, and sharpness, and OLED, basically in my case OLED brightness and all that jazz. So there are a lot of factors, and that vectors will be controlled by metadata from Dolby Vision. And because it's per scene basis, every scene could look different. So that's the whole point of it, Dolby Vision. Now, all these things require idiotically complex pipeline. This is not as simple as Control-C, Control-V. You copied a file and you pasted the file. It will not work like that. So it has to have handshake at all stages, aka proper mastering of the file itself has to be done. So even if a movie is shot in old camera equipments and properly mastered for cinema, does not mean you can just copy paste that cinema file into BT 2020. It has to be mastered properly. And if the person doing the mastering is not doing a good job, you could have a scenario where it has all the stamps but does not look good. So Dolby Vision mastering is a big thing. File has to be done, and then there has to be playback handshake. This is the most frustrating thing, because like this TV, I cannot play even if I illegally download any Dolby Vision content. It will not handshake with this display. Display will not go into Dolby Vision. Now, if I play from Netflix, it will show Dolby Vision right there on the corner. If you are talking about Samsung TV, it will give you this blue one. Sony TV, I think Sony or Samsung, I'm not sure, but basically each TV will give you a notification on the front that yeah, I have managed to do Dolby handshake. Without this handshake, Dolby will not work flat out. And so the easiest way at this point in time, if you have the money to buy a TV that is Dolby certified, is to utilize what we call locked services. For example, Netflix, Disney Plus. That's the only way you can get a proper Dolby Vision content, and there is not that much of it. That leads us to final point. Content is like there is no point of this technology if nobody uses this. So this is a very new standard, aka started in 2014. Now you were like, wait a minute, that's very long for technology. It's standards, that's not long. Like as in, like, think of it this way, like how long it took for most of devices to become USB-C. At this point in time, not everything is still in USB-C. Your motherboards still have USB-A ports, and many things are still USB-A. Heck, I got my first mobile phone which came with a charger that has USB-C port on the charger end. Most of my system, even though I had USB-C charger mobile phones, they had USB-A on the charger. So it takes time. For standard 4-5 years is like that, bro, nothing. And when you're talking about movie, even if somebody like saw the technology demonstration from Dolby system, they're like, yeah, I'm making a movie. It will take 2-3 years to reach to a point like where the movie is finalized, colorists are working on it. It will take bare minimum 2 years, bare minimum. So practically speaking, 2014 was nothing. 15, 16, 17 and 18, some theaters got it. And then like TVs, only now you can buy some TVs, and be mindful at this point in time, Dolby Vision stamped TVs, they are idiotically expensive. This puppy is expensive. There are other TVs that are a bit better than this. They're even more idiotically expensive. So flat out, now people are reaching where they have Dolby Vision system, and it's a paid system. That's why Dolby Vision is not supported by everyone. Heck, it's not even in the boys section. Like you can see boys and it will show HDR, but it will not show Dolby. Why? Because you have to pay Dolby. And many small scale manufacturing industry and manufacturing as a content manufacturer, like, is it worth it to pay for that? Because again, if nobody has the TV to display it, what's the point? So even though they could do it, many people will not do it. So there are not most movies that are shot in Dolby Vision, so do not expect movies to be there. And very old, few selected movies that are remastered properly, it will be like, yeah, I'm enjoying the best amazing experience, theater going experience. So at this point in time, what can you do? Well, Disney Plus has the largest catalog. It's just not available in India. I know it's idiotically frustrating, but because Disney Plus had this brain damage idea of like collaborating with someone else, they lost all the control over the content, and even they sent the file to Hotstar. It's like, hey Hotstar, your server here, take the 4K file. Only some cases you can get that handshake done properly. So LG TV does not work, Samsung TV does not work. Some people said 1 or 2 variant of Sony TV does work. Most of them does not work. Only TVs that have bland Android TV, they might work, and most of the external device that will flat out not work. So really frustrating. Like this TV, everywhere you will see the review of this LG CX55, everybody's like, Disney Plus, awesome. I don't have Disney Plus, so that's the biggest issue. Now LG is working on that, Hotstar claiming to work on that, but my hope is like by 5-10 years it will take them to do that. So that's the issue. Now what about Amazon Prime? I have the paid version, but it only has HDR, so I do not expect it to enjoy the full glory of this TV. Then we come to Netflix. Thankfully, many things I watch on Netflix have basically Dolby standard. New ones, specifically like Lucifer, new seasons are mastered in Dolby. That's why very specific. Even if you see like on Netflix, you will see Dolby Vision, does not mean every single season of that puppy was in Dolby Vision. New shows generally are, but not old ones. That's why I specified Lucifer is not a very old TV show yet. Like I think till season 3, it's like a normal system, and 4 or 5, then you'll get, okay, now you're getting that Dolby handshake. So be very mindful of this thing. It's like, if you can buy Dolby system now, yes, it does allow you to future proof, because content will come up slowly. Even if there is a scenario tomorrow where it's like, I have 8K, you won't have content for it. Heck, go to basically Netflix, you will find Ultra HD as a segment, because that's how few content is there. Same goes in Amazon Prime, same goes in Disney also. So there is not a scenario where it's like, oh, every Tom, Dick and 4K is like people are maxing out. No, hell no. Content wise, barely anything exists in 4K. Like if I'm taking like 10,000 movies released in, let's say, last 10 years, barely any would be in 4K. So be very mindful, and this is the reason with Dolby Vision's popularity and issues. I hate Disney Plus Hotstar. So this was my presentation on basically Dolby Vision. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment, because I do try to reply to all of them, and subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.